The big issue in the New South Wales election campaign, just about the only big issue, is Premier Mike Baird's plan to partially lease the state's electricity, poles and wires to private owners and use the resulting $20 billion to build new public transport, road and other infrastructure. This issue is bitten because so many people have an instinctive objection to selling any government-owned assets, but also because the electricity unions have launched a furious campaign against the sale. Labor's Luke Foley has leapt on the issue as his best chance of winning votes away from a popular premier. So how much is there for consumers and voters to worry about? Not much, unless you happen to work in the industry. Labor and the unions claim the electricity prices will jump if the poles and wires are taken over by private owners. It sounds like it could be true, but it isn't. The prices these businesses can charge are actually controlled by a national regulator, the Australian Energy Regulator. The regulator's draft decision says it intends to cut prices in the coming financial year, not increase them. It is likely new private owners would try to increase profits by reducing overstaffing, which of course is why the unions are fighting so furiously to protect their members, not you. But the regulator has made it clear it intends to require greater efficiency from all publicly and privately owned poles and wires businesses across the country, and to make sure the savings flow on to customers in lower prices. The unions claim that privately owned poles and wires would be less reliable with more blackouts. Again, it wouldn't happen. Service reliability is also tightly regulated for good reason. Governments of all colours know they get the blame if blackouts become a problem, and they risk being voted out. The unions say the loss of local jobs would be massive, but that's an exaggeration. And workers who aren't really needed are likely to be moved on, even if the businesses remain publicly owned. Customers have nothing to gain from continued inefficiency in the distribution of power. Finally, Labor and the unions have made much of their claim that selling the businesses would cost the state government $1.7 billion a year in lost dividends. It's true that when you sell a business, you lose the dividends from it, but the loss is likely to be much less than $1.7 billion a year because the regulator is cracking down on the industry's excessive profits and because the size of future profits will be reduced by people using solar power to leave the electricity grid and by the use of smart meters in people's homes to help them reduce their demand for electricity. Consumers have little to fear from privatisation, but even if voters stop it going ahead, there are tough changes in store for the poles and wires business. The status quo is not an available option.